Awesome. So start to think about that stuff. Let's get into this. I'm going to be done in 10 minutes. I'm serious. We're going to deal with 1 Corinthians chapter 2, 1 Corinthians chapter 2, starting at verse 6, all the way down to verse 16. So hold on for the ride. 2 Corinthians chapter 2, starting at verse 6. Paul has set the stage here to discuss what we talked about last week, about him choosing to know nothing but Jesus Christ and him crucified, saying that his preaching maybe wasn't as flowery as Apollos', but that through humility he chose to just teach Christ. And sometimes that's just not as flashy. Sometimes that's just not as fancy. And so we don't react quite, that was a weird sound. We don't react quite charismatic in nature, in the sense of that the preacher might have preached a boring message and so on. And I'm just going to read that really quickly to preface this. He says, "When I came to you, brothers and sisters, I did not come proclaiming the mystery of God to you in lofty words or wisdom, for I decided to know nothing among you except Jesus Christ and him crucified. And I came to you in weakness and in fear and in much trembling. My speech and my proclamation were not with plausible words of wisdom, but with a demonstration of the Spirit and of power, so that your faith might rest not on human wisdom, but on the power of God." So Paul has brought in at the very end of this, shifting into verse 6, he's brought the Holy Spirit into the picture here. And he said, it's by the power of the Spirit that I've done these things, not so that you would rely on human wisdom, but on the power of God. And then verse 6 says, "Yet among the mature, we do speak wisdom, though it is not a wisdom of this age or of the rulers of this age who are doomed to perish. But we speak God's wisdom, secret and hidden." That's weird. God's wisdom, secret and hidden? That's strange. "Which God decreed before the ages for our glory. None of the rulers of this age understood this, for if they had, they would not have crucified the Lord of glory. But as it is written, what no eye has seen, no ear has heard, nor the human heart conceived what God has prepared for those who love him." That's one section. We're going to talk about that. The next section says, "These things God has revealed to us through the Spirit. For the Spirit searches everything, even the depths of God. For what human beings know what is truly human except the human spirit that is within. So also no one comprehends what is truly God's except the Spirit of God." Another section. Now we shift. "Now we have received not the spirit of the world, but the Spirit that is from God, so that we may understand the gifts bestowed on us by God. And we speak of these things in words not taught by human wisdom, but taught by the Spirit, interpreting spiritual things to those who are spiritual. Those who are unspiritual do not receive the gifts of God's Spirit." So he's saying some are spiritual, some are unspiritual. That's weird too. "For they are foolishness to them, and they are unable to understand them because they are spiritually discerned. Those who are spiritual discern all things, and they are themselves subject to no one else's scrutiny. For who has known the mind of the Lord so as to instruct him?" In other words, who's telling God what to do? Which one of us is going to be the person that tells God what to do? "But we have the mind of Christ." I broke this up into 3 sections. Verse 6 to verse 9 is one section. Verse 10 to verse 12 is another section. Verse 13 to verse 16 is another section. And the way that I labeled these sections, you can write this down in your notes, is the beginning, man's blindness. That's what Paul's talking about, man's blindness. The second section, he's actually talking about revelation, God being revealed. And the third, he's talking about what in theology we call illumination. And so I want to just spend a really quick time on those 3 points: man's blindness, revelation, and illumination. What are those? What exactly is Paul talking about here? Now, I want you to understand something. We think that we're pretty smart. We really do, in reality, because we're control freaks. And so, because we're control freaks, we ultimately think that we're really smart. We think that we can take a hold of something, that we can be the ones in our wisdom and in our strength. We can deal with anything that comes our way. Well, the Bible talks very differently about that. And this is sin. This is something that we struggle with in sin. This is where we've been duped a little bit by the devil, by us actually believing that we're in control, by us actually believing that it's us that can solve the problem. Our problem here is our perspective on God. See, we tend to humanize God. The book, The Shack, God was a black woman, right? And so all kinds of theologians and all kinds of people, that's wrong. God can't possibly be a black woman. He's white, right? And then you're in Africa and you're evangelizing to people and you're showing them this like white Swedish Jesus with long blonde flowing hair who glows. Okay, and these are the perspectives that we have on who Jesus was and is. We have humanized him. There is nothing human about God. There is plenty human about Jesus, meaning that he was revealed, we're going to talk about that he was revealed through the person of Jesus Christ, and that he is still, to this day, illuminated to us by the person called the Holy Spirit. Wow, that's loaded theology right there. The Father, the Son, the Holy Spirit, three persons in one, but you can't humanize God. He's not a black woman. He's not a white guy. He's not Swedish. He's not even from Simcoe. Matter of fact, if you read Bethel Baptist, the devil lives here. Yeah, they had a sign up last year. Me and Kevin took a picture of it that said that the devil was in Simcoe. I'm like, really? Wow. Because he's got a lot of better things to do than bother Simcoe. He's already accomplished everything he needs here. Like, we're doing just fine messing it all up ourselves, aren't we? Right? The devil doesn't live here. The devil's not omnipresent, right? God is everywhere all the time. The devil is not. The devil's a created being, an angel with an attitude. That's the devil. Okay? He's a wuss. It doesn't matter. What do you see here? Oh, come on, this is a portrait of God. I drew it. This is God right here. This is a picture. This is a picture of God. Can't you see it? Okay, what do you see? Come on, help me out here. We're scholars. It's a white freaking piece of paper, isn't it? Right? It's beautiful imagery of God. But we see what? Mark, what do you see? A blank piece of paper. I see God. I see beautiful imagery of the theology and the nature of God right here on this white piece of paper. Picture this paper as the universe. Make the white God. Covers the whole universe. Omnipresent everywhere all the time. This is a portrait of God. He made it. He created it. It's made from trees. It's not a white piece of paper. This is God. Not really. Like, don't make it an idol and start bowing to it and things like that. This is a beautiful picture of God right here. That right to the edges you see nothing but white, which represents his rule, his reign, his kingdom.